Good morning. As I record, it's 01:39, which for civilians is 1:39 in the morning on Thursday, I think the 15th of August. I can remember the days of the week better than I can remember the dates, because the days repeat every 7. You know, if yesterday was Wednesday, then today must be Thursday. If tomorrow's Friday, then today must be Thursday. It's simpler for me. The channel, hopefully it's obvious since you clicked on the video. Hopefully it's obvious. The channel is Christianity on the Bottom Shelf, and I used to explain it in every video. I haven't been doing that lately, but let me explain why I call it that in this one. J. Vernon McGee, in doing his Through the Bible series, and if you've not heard it and you are new to Christianity, maybe you're not even a Christian, but you're looking into it, this is basic stuff that's intended for people who don't know a lot about Christianity. He just goes through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation and briefly expounds a passage. He'll read a few verses, talk about them, read a few verses, talk about them, and that way through the whole Bible. I don't agree with everything he said, and he's dead now, has been for several years, but they just replay it, and it's a several years long, as he called it, trip on the Bible bus. He was a Texan, by the way, so that's one point in his favor. But he used to say that in doing that program, and it's a radio program, by the way, although I'm sure you can find it online in 11 places. He used to say that he was putting the cookies on the bottom shelf where everybody could reach them. Well, that's what I'm trying to do with this channel. I'm trying to take different elements of Christianity and explain them so that even if this is the first time you've ever encountered anything about Christianity, you can understand the Christian position. You may not understand how something can be so, but you can understand what it is that the Bible teaches, and you can then decide whether you believe that. Well, that's what I'm doing here. That's why it's called Christianity on the Bottom Shelf. And I want to turn tonight to one of the most familiar verses to anti-Christians that there is in the whole Bible. I take my glasses off to read. I wear them to see out there. Up close, right here is about where I read. I don't know how well you can see the distance. When I was a kid, it was more like this. But in the 7th chapter of Matthew, the first verse, and I'm sure that you will find this a familiar statement, even if you've never opened the Bible in your life nor listened to a preacher in your life. And this is Jesus talking. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. I'm sure you know the popular use of that. Jesus said, don't judge me. You can't judge me for the way I live. And they always say it in a very judgmental tone, by the way. And I have on a few occasions replied to somebody, well, you're judging me, aren't you? You're condemning me for judging you. Either it works both ways or it doesn't work at all. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. Now, there is a principle I want to enunciate so that I'm very clear on it. The Bible does say that. I read it. It's in the Bible. It means what it says. But what it means is not just that what we see in that one verse. Walter Martin, to point out my point, or to illustrate my point, used to say that you can use the Bible to tell everyone to go out and immediately kill himself. Now, the Bible doesn't say that, but it does say Judas went out and hung himself. Go and do likewise. What you do, do quickly. It says those three things. But it does not mean go kill yourself now. What makes the difference? The context. Judas went out and hung himself. That's a historical statement. It's simply telling you what happened. What you do, or go and do likewise, is in an entirely different context. It has nothing to do with Judas or suicide or anything like that. What you do, do quickly. That was the context of Judas going out and betraying Jesus, not suicide. And none of these things are a command to you. Context is important. And so I first want to give you the context of Jesus himself in the book of John. This is John 7:24. Now, Matthew and John were different authors. They had different audiences, but the same Holy Spirit inspired the book of Matthew and the book of John. And God cannot err, so therefore there is no contradiction between these two. They explain each other. They don't argue against each other. John, I said, what was it? 7:24. I have notes. And by the way, just as a quick digression, let me put my glasses back on. I said in a video I recorded recently that I had mentioned in a yet earlier recording that I was making a list of things to cover so that I would make sure I didn't just repeat myself. And so that I would have a guide when I came to sit down here. Well, this is the first, I got to go back. Now, in the video I recorded recently, I said I was still working on the list. Well, this is the first video I've recorded from that list. Now, in which order the 3 videos I mentioned will appear, I don't know. This may appear before the other 2. It may appear third in order. The second may appear first and then the first. And, I just upload them as the whim takes me. But I did want to mention that. Okay, John 7:24. Where Jesus says, where's the verse 24? Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. Now, I've already said these 2 verses don't contradict. Now, how can I say that? One says don't judge, the other says judge. Isn't that an opposition? Well, first, before I answer that question, I want to continue with this verse. This is context for the verse in Matthew. And you'll see more clearly how that works when we go back to Matthew, as we will. And I'm trying to keep this short. We're at just over 9 minutes. I have to put something there because otherwise the white numbers show up against the white refrigerator, and that doesn't show up. But Jesus is telling us here that if we do judge, we must judge righteously. And that is in contrast to judging by appearance. Just to use one easy example, this is exactly what Martin Luther King said when he told us that he had a dream that one day his 4 little children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. A dream, by the way, which the anti-racists hate. They will not tell you that. They'll do Martin Luther King Day all day long, and twice on Sundays. But they are against leaving color out of it and judging by character. Their whole point is to judge by color and leave character out of it, which is the opposite of what Dr. King wanted. We are then not to judge by appearance, but righteously. Those two are a contrast. Righteous judgment cannot be by appearance, and if you're judging by appearance, you are not judging righteously. Okay, let's continue with some context. Back to Matthew. If we go up into the preceding chapter, chapter 6, we find that this is actually part of what we call the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus went up on a mountain and sat down, as the custom of teachers was. Our custom is for the preacher to stand in the pulpit. The custom in that time and place was for the teacher to sit down and teach. Whatever the custom is, doesn't matter what the teacher says, is what matters. So he's up on the mountain, and the immediately preceding section, verses 25 through 34 of Matthew 6, are talking about not worrying about where things will come from, the necessities of your life. Let me just read one verse. Here we go, verse 28 of chapter 6. I lost it. There we go. And why are you worried about clothing? Observe how the lilies of the field grow. They do not toil, nor do they spin. Verse 29. Yet I say to you that not even Solomon in all his glory clothed himself like one of these. It's that immediate context that we must come to 7:1 with. The larger context, of course, is Jesus is teaching his followers how to live on a day-to-day basis. He's not so much teaching doctrine, although there is doctrine here, as he's teaching practice. And that's worth keeping in mind. But I have to be careful not to shoot off on all these ramifications because I'm already at 13 minutes. With that in mind, we then come to chapter 7, and let's look at verse 2. You'll never find these people quoting verse 2. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with what measure you measure, it will be measured to you. Verse 3, and why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? I'll go on through verses 4 and 5. And how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. He is saying there exactly what he said over in John 7:24, judge righteously. It is unrighteous to have a huge fault in your own life and self-righteously set out to correct a small fault in someone else's life. That's unrighteous judgment. Righteous judgment is to deal with that major problem in your life, my life, and then set out to correct the minor detail in your brother's life. So when somebody quotes just Matthew 7:1 to you, he is misusing the scripture. He's taking it totally out of context. He's making it mean the opposite of what it actually does mean. I said at the beginning of the video, it means what it means, but the context helps us understand what in fact it does mean. It means what it says, but in the context we understand better what it says. And there's one final point I want to make. When we Christians condemn homosexual behavior, when we condemn the murder of unborn children, when we condemn the slaughter of Christians by Muslims in various countries, when we condemn whatever it is, we in fact are not judging. God has already judged. In this word, in this word, the newest part of which is 2,000 years old, God long ago judged homosexual actions. He long ago judged all murder, including the murder of the unborn. He long ago judged those who attack and kill his people. We're simply proclaiming the judgment that already exists. When you go into court, let's say not you. Let's assume, for the sake of being polite, if nothing else, that you will never have any reason to be in court. But somebody else is in court. Say he's accused of rape. That's what popped into my head. The prosecution presents its case, the defense presents its case, the jury considers the totality of the evidence and convicts the man of rape. When the judge hands down the sentence, he's not judging. The law has already judged rape to be wrong. And all good law, by the way, is based on right and wrong. You can't legislate morality. All good law is exactly legislating morality. Why are there laws against murder? Because it is morally wrong to murder. Why are there laws, coming back to our hypothetical case, against rape? Because it is morally wrong to rape. And all good law is based on morality. Think of a good law, one which actually protects the citizens and seeks their benefit, and you will find that it has a moral basis. Now, it may be a bad moral basis. For instance, laws against or laws instituting gun control have a moral basis. Those who push them and pass them and advocate for them believe that it is immoral, that it is wrong for people to just have any arms they wish to keep and bear. Now, that moral basis is grossly in error, but it's a moral basis. But back to where we were. When the judge passes sentence, he's not making the law. He's not judging. He is declaring the judgment of the law, which has existed already for years, and says those who are guilty of rape must face this penalty. That's where we Christians are. We're not judging you when we condemn your homosexual acts, when we condemn your gossip, when we condemn your alcohol abuse, when we condemn this, when we condemn that. We're speaking the thoughts of God after him. He has revealed right and wrong in this book. And when we proclaim the right and wrong that the Bible presents, we're not judging. We are proclaiming the judgment of God, either for or against you, as you are for or against God. And it's just that simple.